Loading screens are rarely something we look forward to. Most developers are content with a scrolling image, animated logo, and perhaps a pro tip for you to read for the 100th time. Where some see an unavoidable roadblock, others imagine an open road of creative and interactive possibilities. The list we've compiled honors the more innovative and elaborate picks among the million loading screens we've likely been subjected to. Now that we've transferred those specifics into your subconscious, we present the technical breaks worth waiting for, the top 10 loading screens of all time.
Number 10. Halo.
While the game's main theme has become one of the most iconic and recognizable songs in any series, the loading screen to Halo Combat Evolved presented eager players with a faint image of the ringed world that was illuminated by a blue streak as it made its way across the screen, representing how far along the loading had progressed. But what really made this screen interesting was how the Gregorian chant from the main theme was implemented, initiating with a low set of vocals that gradually added more chanters while also increasing pitch as the screen progressed. It's a small touch, but it's hard to argue against the impact soothing vocals can have on an impatient gamer.
If I still had fingers, they'd be crossed.
Number 9. 3D Dot Game Heroes.
A love letter to classic gaming, 3D Dot Game Heroes revels in its references to 8-bit fantasy games like Zelda and Dragon Quest. The loading screens are the ultimate expression of this passion, displaying over 100 scenes recreating box art from fan favorites like Tetris, Metal Gear, and Final Fantasy, as well as numerous other lesser-known games. Represented in the game's blocky style, it's not always easy to recognize the iconic imagery, but it's fun to guess nonetheless.
Number 8. Wii U TRANSFER SCREEN.
The 8th spot belongs to a loading screen that honestly barely qualifies as a loading screen, but ranks on the strength of its sheer charm. When transferring Wii data to the Wii U, a bizarre Pikmin march symbolizes the whole process. They carry priceless save files and Mii data through the jaggy hallways of the Wii, climb into a spaceship, and finally unload all the files into the flashier, busier realm of the Wii U. This loading screen represents a great deal of care and effort put into something that no one would ever ask for and few people will actually see. But that's Nintendo for you.
Number 7. Rayman Origins.
The loading screen to Rayman Origins is one of the many charming things that define this excellent platformer. This silhouetted time passer allows Rayman and his friends to slap themselves silly, as well as collect health items to prepare for the frantic area ahead. Most of the time, it's over before you want it to end, as you race the internal clock to nab a floating health bottle before you're ushered into the next level. It makes the list over other amusing animations because it's so faithful to the rest of the experience, and keeps the absurd action going non-stop.
Number 6. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Infinity Ward's blockbuster military shooter changed the game in many ways, including, surprisingly enough, loading screens. As the player globe-trotted from shooter set piece to set piece, they were met with unique mission briefing style interstitials, which provided information about the task at hand, along with tightly produced graphics, images, and videos that really pushed the notion that the player was central to this global conflict. As the presentation wrapped up, the player is immediately swept onto the map, deployed into position. This transition from commando to commando is a unique bridge to change from character to character and in sad spectacle, exhibited just how insignificant one man's death can be when viewed as a statistic. Powerful and never intrusive, these loading screens never let the pace linger, and that's definitely a good thing when it comes to Call of Duty.
Lock and load. Green light. Go, go, go.
Number 5. Mortal Kombat.
Classic with a K is the best way to describe the loading screen to Mortal Kombat. Ever since MK3, the series allowed players to input cheat codes during the loading screens, with Player 1 controlling the first 3 cheat slots, and Player 2 controlling the last 3. Over 40 cheat codes can be triggered. Want to play headless zombie vampire mode with no arms? Such a thing is possible. The cheat code loading screen made its way into other midway games, and became the company's favorite way to waste a little less of each player's time when each area was being constructed. If only there was a cheat that made Shao Kahn stop telling us we suck.
Number 4. Bayonetta.
Bayonetta may be officially classified as a hack-and-slash game, but it's really a combo game. The focus of the game is combat, and the focus of combat is properly executed combos. Most games are content to teach combos through tutorials or just letting players figure it out on their own. Bayonetta, however, combats both boredom and inexperience by turning the loading screen into a dojo. Here, players can scroll through an on-screen move list and practice sophisticated attacks. The idea was so great that DMC Devil May Cry did something similar, so we're hoping more games follow Bayonetta's loading screen, teaching screen combo.
Number 3. FIFA 11.
FIFA's recent loading screen technique is unique in that it's basically its own mode. When loading a new game, the camera drops behind the player, who can take free shots on some poor goalie. Moments later, the shabby practice field magically turns into a packed stadium, serving as a smooth transition into the match. It presents a unique opportunity to nail down your shots, watch the dribbling animations up close, or just goof off with no penalty. Better still, you can even play as the goalie if you're into that kind of thing.
Number 2. Ridge Racer.
Blowing minds and preventing wasteful seconds of boredom, the original Ridge Racer lets you play a version of Galaxian while the game was loading. Namco became so enamored of putting separate minigames in their loading screens that they actually obtained a patent for it. Ridge Racer Revolution pulled the same trick with Galaga 88, and Tekken 5 throws you into 3D space with Starblade. Test Drive pulls a similar trick with Pong, and other games on this list, such as Bayonetta and FIFA 11, were likely inspired by Namco's example to turn loading time into fun time.
Number 1. Resident Evil.
The PlayStation 1 was when we saw the biggest surge of loading activity in console games. One of the games to create the most clever loading diversions was also one of the best sellers of its generation. Resident Evil is a web of rooms, and those rooms are connected by a ton of doors. When a player is fortunate enough to get one of them open, the camera switches from third person to first person as they walk through a swinging 3D model and into complete darkness. These not only kept load times consistent in length, they kept the player's mind locked into the environment by keeping the same music track playing or gently fading into another. Door textures and sound effects varied depending on the door's location, and Capcom even used the common effect to drop a decent scare into the sequel, Resident Evil 2. The series uses the mechanic to this day, and for good reason. It's the best loading screen we've ever seen. Although we found Snake's Smoke Break to be a bit too passive in MGS4, it clearly dominated your decisions on Facebook with over 270 votes. Our number 4, Bayonetta, came in at number 2 on your list with 200 votes, proving that we all appreciate being able to practice combos instead of just stare at our televisions. The item descriptions from Dark Souls beat out our number 1 loading screen Resident Evil to wind up at number 3 on Facebook. You also gave top honors to The Last of Us, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, and Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Thanks for voting. Hopefully you don't have to wait too long for us to load the next poll.